We start with an extraordinary case, a double murder, or rather two separate murders, both of vulnerable people, both without apparent motive, and, as you'll see, they're linked by bizarre coincidence. They happened in January by the seaside in Hastings in Sussex.
Thinking about Clare, since her death, my family have to face reality, whereas before, that side of life was a fiction. I think that the criminal and the victim are somehow drawn together. My daughter was looking for a companion, and the criminal had his own ideas, and they were brought together by some mysterious alchemy. And the criminal always chooses the weakest in society, just as a lioness will choose the wounded deer. Clare was not suited for the cut and thrust of ordinary life. She was too much of an innocent, you know. I had this plan in my head to try and rehabilitate her, if you like. I blame myself deeply for letting her drift on in her own sweet way. I used to arrive every Sunday because otherwise she did not have visitors. So I felt I ought to make myself a visitor and a friend. Basically, I was taking her out because she'd mentioned that she was depressed. I think she felt the loneliness of it. In the basement, she was isolated from the rest of the community, and I think that depressed her.
Now then, where would you like to go?
Each Sunday they went shopping, and then Clare's father would take her for high tea. That day they went to Littlewoods, where there's a cafe in the store. They got back to Clare's flat in Cornwallis Gardens around 5 p.m.
Well, I'll see you next Sunday, weather permitting.
Thanks for the tea.
Bye.
Bye.
We both changed together. She was changing me and I was changing her. I felt really there was a warmth coming through, and then it was stopped, which I very much regret. I was stopped in midair.
About an hour and a half later, a jogger ran down Cornwallis Gardens. Was this you? 6 feet tall, mid-20s, with sandy blonde hair. Then, half an hour later, opposite Clare's flat.
Well, I was going to pick up my boyfriend, and there's not normally many places to park the car, but luckily there was about 3 car spaces, so I just pulled in. And as I did, I saw a car in front of me, facing me, with its engine running and the lights on. It was similar to a red Escort, can't be sure, and the headlights were square. It makes me think that either somebody was sitting in the car waiting for somebody to come out of the flat, or that they were maybe in a hurry and they were just nipping in to get something and come back out, and that's why they left the car running with the lights on.
Whose was this red saloon? Neighbours reported the fire at 7:15. Clare Letchford was found dead from smoke poisoning. Then, a week later, detectives met the next victim.
It's so terrible for someone to die in a house fire like that. Awful. Terrible.
Could I just take your name and address in case we have to contact you later?
Yes, of course.
Thanks very much.
It's Mrs. Beryl O'Connor, Dorney O'Connor, and it's 53 Clifton Court, Holmesdale Gardens. It's just over there.
Fine. Thanks very much. Thanks for all your help.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Here, let me give you a hand.
Oh, thanks very much. I'm just about to go and buy some ciggies.
It was certainly ironic, but it was also very, very tragic. And we're talking about another victim. And then the following day, she herself becomes a victim. I've worked on several murder inquiries in my career. Certainly that has never happened to me before, and I hope that it never happens again.
Known her for about 6 years. She was young at heart. She had so much to talk about, like, you know, interesting things she'd done in her life. Everyone just really took a shine to her because she was, I'd say, lovely. Remarkable, really.
Hello, David.
Hello, Johnny. Now, let me take that for you.
Thank you, dear.
Sit yourself down.
Thank you.
How are you, anyway?
Well, not too bad. The old bones are a bit creaky.
Never mind. You want a drink? It's whiskey,
Please.
innit?
Yes, please.
Have a whiskey, please, barman.
20 to 9 next morning, Monday, January the 26th, just up the hill from Clare's flat, Dorney's home in Clifton Court.
I've known her since we've been here, but not really got to know her well till her husband died. That was last June. And that's how I came to be doing the shopping for her, because I'd be going up the shop, and if I said, well, give me a ring if you want anything, which she used to do.
Here's your bread. Rose, what's that wet down there? Look, there's some more over there. It could be paw prints. No.
If it had been water, I thought, well, it maybe dried up or disappeared. So I was a bit worried.
Come on. Let's go and check the rest of the flour.
You just don't know who comes in and out. If it had been on my door, I don't know what I would have done. That's why I was worried, because she's on her own up there. She couldn't, move quick.
You are a good Rose.
Her neighbour was so concerned that she checked on Dorney several times that Monday morning. She last spoke to her just before lunchtime.
Thank you, Rose.
Later forensic analysis would find that the liquid at the entrance to the flat was mineral oil, possibly a lubricating oil. At 2:35 in a neighbouring block, a man was seen near the stairwell to Dorney's flat. He was slim and in his 20s with dark hair. Who was he? 5 minutes later, and just down the road, detectives were continuing their inquiries into Clare Letchford's death.
I didn't see her that much, say, on average about 2 or 3 times a month. Sometimes when she went past the window, I'd ask her to come in. She was like a lost sheep. Lonely sort. Not very good at looking after herself. Excuse me. Hello? Oh, hello, Dorney. No, I can't talk right now.
She seemed agitated, and I got the impression she wanted to get out of the flat,
OK, I'll see you in a minute.
The day was so muddled up, what with the police coming to tell me about Clare and then dawn ringing. It completely went out of my head. When the police come for the second time and told me that Dorney was dead, and I nearly passed out. There were 2 lovely, lonely people, and now they won't be there anymore.
It was approaching the bridge that I saw this man on the right side of it. Looked like someone in his early 20s. He was 5 foot 9, 10, medium build. He had very dark hair, brushed to one side, slightly longer over the years. You could see that his chin was slightly square and his eyebrows very prominent.
Who was this? An innocent jogger or a double killer? At around the same time, a few yards up the road, firemen were called to Clifton Court. Dawnie O'Connor was found in her burning flat. She'd been strangled.
Jeremy Payne, this must have had a profound effect on the community.
These murders have caused immense distress to the community and devastation to the family of Clare and Dawn. Dawn was a smashing person. She was lively, young at heart, and Clare was gentle, and she wouldn't have harmed anybody.
Now, with no obvious motive, is the killer likely to be somebody who appears to be weird, who acts strange, or at least did around this time in January?
You're absolutely right. We have no logical or obvious motive, and it's quite likely that the offender would have behaved strangely before or after these crimes.
Now, obviously, there are people in the film that you want to eliminate, that you want to trace. Is there anybody else you need to find?
Yes, the week before Clare's murder, there were some young children messing around in a basement flat next door. They're two boys and a girl, aged between 10 and 14. They're not in any trouble, but we need to know who they were.
So, if you know who those kids were around Cornwallis Gardens on Sunday the 11th of January, call us straight away. What about the two victims? I mean, have you traced all of their friends? I mean, these aren't people who would have let anybody in the door. They wouldn't have let strangers in.
No, they were very security conscious, and it's very unlikely they would have let strangers in. We've spoken to many people, friends and people who knew these two ladies, but if you haven't come forward yet, please do so.
And do you know all you need to know about their movements around the time they were killed?
Well, in respect of Clare, her father had an arrangement with her whereby he would meet her in her flat at about 3 o'clock. Now, Clare wasn't there on that Sunday, and we don't know where she was earlier on the day. So if you know where she was, please give us a ring.
Sunday the 18th of January.
That's right.
What about Dawnie? Accounted for all her time?
Now, Dawnie, the critical time is 20 to 3 to 20 past 3 on that Monday. We know that Dawnie was alive at 20 to 3 because she rang a friend, and at 20 past, the fire alarm went off, so the killer would have left her flat between those times.
And it was around 20 past 3 that runner was seen on the bridge, which is really right outside her flat. We had the artist's impression.
That's right. We put a lot of effort into tracing that man, and he hasn't come forward. It's purely for elimination purposes.
OK. Just tell me what the significance you think of the oil was at Dawnie's flat on the floor, and how can viewers help about that?
I don't know what the significance of the oil is. However, that might be the last piece of the jigsaw puzzle in somebody's mind. If you're suspicious about somebody and you suddenly realise that back in January they had a can of oil they were carrying around with them, then we need to know.
OK. This is a very, very rare offence, of course. There's a reward of £10,000, but above all, these murders have caused a lot of grief, as you've just heard, and they still represent a serious danger. Here's Clare's father once again.
I would appeal to the family of the killer and ask them to consider very deeply whether what they are doing is the right thing. Think about it very deeply.
0500 600 600. And obviously the importance of calling now is to prevent another death. That's our free call to us here, live in the studio. And other detectives on the case are standing by on 01 424 456 060. That's Hastings 456 060.